It's a pleasure to be joining you at the conclusion of this 11th International Biennial Landscape Architecture of Barcelona. My name is James Hayter and I represent the International Federation of Landscape Architects as their president. I'm speaking to you from Adelaide in South Australia. For this year's biennial, the organisers have partnered with IFLA to recognise a project which is seen as exemplifying the work of the landscape architecture profession globally. But before I announce the award winner, what I'd like to do is just to give you some information about IFLA and its mission globally. So IFLA at a global level represents and participates in all aspects of the landscape architecture profession. It seeks to connect and network, integrate people and projects, and encourage the sharing of knowledge and skills between practitioners and academics globally. IFLA seeks to set a high-level global policy in landscape architecture, seeks advocacy and thought leadership, and it seeks representations to government at all levels. Importantly, IFLA works strategically and in partnership, seeks to work to complement and help the work of all organisations who are concerned with the landscape architecture profession and promoting the work of landscape architects globally. Importantly, around 2 years ago, IFLA made a major decision to align its work and particularly the actions and tasks of its working groups to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. This is a major move for us in terms of establishing the values of the landscape architecture profession and the relevant work that landscape architects do globally in support of the UN's SDGs. As an example of this, we produced earlier this year a landscape architecture guide to the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. This book seeks to introduce projects and acknowledge the work of landscape architects globally against each of the SDGs. We've made statements for each of the SDGs and try to identify some of the projects and some of the work that the landscape architects have done spread throughout the world in support of the SDGs. To give an example, SDG 1, ending poverty worldwide, is that we've started the book and the statements within it by saying landscape architects work to create and maintain the urban forest, improve air quality, integrate low-cost urban food production, and produce low-cost materials for construction. Under each of the SDGs, we look to make a statement in support of the work that landscape architects do, and then illustrate it with projects. So in this case, there's a silverback lodge in Rwanda and a project called the Moroka Dam Precinct Project in Soweto, which shows the work that landscape architects are doing in support of looking to end poverty. I'd now like to announce the recognition project, the Rosa Barba IFLA Award, and it goes to the Reserva Elemental Candies, which is a project in Chile in South America that was entered within the Rosa Barba Awards program. The authors are Cecilio Rios and Carla Kurtzer. And if you follow the web link below, you'll see their entry into the Rosa Barba Awards program. This is an exemplar in demonstrating the role and effectiveness of landscape architects working locally, but thinking globally. It's a small but modest project of, I think, great significance. The project's located in Chile on the western coast of South America, and it's located around 40 kilometers from the largest city in Chile, in Santiago. Project is set on the edge of the Andes. You can see from the illustration how it sits in the valley floor and the Andes loom up before. If I could quote the authors in their submission to the Rosa Barba Awards is that the project, in their words, is about how do we stop environmental degradation and ecosystem loss. By valuing the nature of our planet, studies and trends show us that man has a neurobiological connection with nature, which provides him with physical and mental well-being. The approach of the authors is to see benefit from the interaction of people with the environment from an early age. They point out that today the education of most of our children is carried out inside between four walls of a building, and there's a lack of connection between nature and education. The premise that they put forward are, how do you value something you don't know? So the methodology of learning through experiences in nature is what allows people to give value to the native landscape, changing a destructive behaviour for one of conservation and reconstruction. So they state that this is the foundation of the Caserta Foundation, which are the creators of the Licandys Elementary Reserve, which this project is set on. The project site is 188 hectares, which is located on the outskirts of Santiago. And the project's been developed in two stages. First, a master plan, which this diagram represents, and then, in their words, a sustainable construction with a limited, restricted budget of infrastructure that allows outdoor teaching using a strategy of minimum interventions to stimulate and enhance the territory. The master plan is described by the authors as consisting of a ring-shaped route circuit, which recognises the two main elements of the reserve's landscapes, the high slopes and the riverbed. The path of the earth and the path of the water join at its ends and centre in meeting spaces that they have called plazas. Again, in the words of the authors, they decided to concentrate the activities of greatest impact in the central esplanade that they call the Aldea, where the buildings, outdoor spaces of intensive use and orchards are connected. Each path has its own formal language adapted to its spatial and material conditions. They describe that the project is carried out in an artisan way using labour and local materials, thus favouring a sustainable economy. They describe the project as beginning with the construction of the water trail, greenhouses, orchards, amphitheatre, and furniture on site. They state that the park does not intend to transform or dominate the natural environment, but to bring it close to the community, using it as a support for their own education. As a result, they comment that it's not only brought children close to the school environment, it has also aroused a curiosity of professionals who see this relationship of people to architecture, landscape, and education, considering it as a reference. So this modest but exemplar project was seen by the judges of this recognition award as reflecting the values that I think many of us as landscape architects hold. These values that I see are held globally by members of our profession, and they concern thinking globally but acting locally. They also see that investment in education and our children is the most important contribution that we can make. It sees children as the custodians of our planet. And lastly, the value that it sees is that it connects people with nature, for it is truly there that we can find our physical and our mental health. I'd like to congratulate the authors of this project, which is just one which is both moving, but I think it's an exemplar of all those values that we talk about, and very much that this conference has been about in terms of protecting natural environment, combating climate change. Just as I leave you, I'd just like to leave you a message that really we as IFLA, and I think you as landscape architects share, and that landscape architects must take leadership in this area of climate change. We know we must stand up for the values upon which our profession is founded. With the skills and the belief the world needs and depends on you. With that, I'll leave you. I'll congratulate the organisers of this, this conference, and I thank you for sharing with us this recognition award. Thank you.